Hi, my name is Neil Keller. In this video I'm going to show you 3 simple balance exercises, and all of these balance exercises are done on one foot, and the intent in all of these exercises is to keep the knee straight but also keep it strong and to minimize any movement of the foot. So to begin with, stand with your feet comfortable distance apart, and actually what I'd suggest is make your feet parallel, shift your weight to one leg, lift the other leg a slight amount, and this is pose number 1. And for this exercise, the goal, you can maybe see my foot is wobbling slightly side to side. So part of the goal of this exercise, or one of the goals in this exercise and the other 3 exercises, is to prevent movement of the foot. Towards that end, make the knee feel strong. And actually what I'd suggest is making the knee strong should go towards helping you keep the foot still. So you can hold for a number of breaths or a number of seconds until your foot gets too tired, and then switch sides. Now, one of the main points is making the knee strong, and to make the knee strong, it's not just activating the quadriceps or the front of the thigh. You're also trying to activate the hamstrings or make the back of the knee strong, but perhaps even more importantly, the inside of the knee. So the sartorius muscle, also gracilis and semitendinosus, all 3 of these muscles attached to the inside of the tibia. So you're trying to make the inside of the knee feel strong by activating those muscles. You're also trying to make the outside of the knee feel strong, and for the outside of the knee you have the tensor fasciae latae and superficial gluteus maximus, which attach to the IT band, which attaches to the top of the tibia. You also have the outer hamstrings, which attach to the top of the fibula. So making the knee feel strong, trying to make all 4 sides of the knee feel strong. And one of the reasons for focusing on all 4 sides is so that you can stabilize the shin against rotation, and that in turn should make it easier to hold the foot stable. Now, another consideration when doing this exercises and the other 2 exercises is to also focus on feeling your hip bone, and also maybe making some slight adjustments of the pelvis relative to the thigh, so that your hip feels comfortable, or so that your hip feels strong. And the reason for that is those muscles that attach to the top of the tibia, both the outside and the inside, and the top of the fibula, all of those attach to corner points of the hip bone. So you have the asic, pubic bone, psic, sitting bone. Those are the corner points of the pelvis. So first of all, by adjusting the position of your pelvis, you make it more likely to be able to use all of those muscles, those same muscles that work on the inside and outside of the knee. You'll be stabilizing, you'll help stabilize the knee, you'll also help stabilize the hip bone, and that in turn you'll be able to stabilize the foot. So when trying to stand still on one leg, you can start by making the knee feel strong. You can adjust your hip positioning so that your hip also feels strong. You may then find it easier to keep your foot absolutely still, or as still as possible. You may find that, of course, since you're balancing on one foot, it also helps to make the foot feel strong as well. So what I'd suggest, the first step is to make the knee feel strong. From there, adjust the hip, make the hip feel strong, and then from there make the foot feel strong. So for the next 2 exercises, you'll be bending forward or bending to the sides, and you probably need, if you can't touch the floor with your hand, you can always use a yoga block or a table, a low table or something. So I'm going to use this table. You could use a seat of a chair, just make sure whatever it is that you're using is stable. So for the next exercise, you can bend forward. This is a little bit wobbly, so make sure you're pressing straight down with your hands. Transfer your weight to one leg. So rather than reaching the leg back, let your leg hang down. From here, the work is on the standing leg. So same basic actions. Make the knee feel strong. Adjust the hips, make the hip feel strong. And then from there, the foot. You can shift forward or back, probably back so that your hand relaxes, so that your hands relax. Try lifting your hands and hold. And here again, the idea is to minimize any movement of the foot while standing balanced. And you could try standing up from that position or just simply switch legs. So going on to the other side, make the knee feel strong, adjust the hips, make the hips feel strong, and then from there, make the foot feel strong, shift forward or back, lift the hands. Then when you're ready, stand up. Now, apart from working on balance, why go through all of this trouble? Why bother practicing balancing on one foot? One simple mechanism in the knee that doesn't get much attention is the idea that the shin can rotate relative to the thigh. You could think of this as knee rotation. And there are muscles, those same muscles which attach to the hip bone, which I mentioned previously. There are muscles which can work to rotate the shin relative to the thigh and also the hip bone. But there are also single joint muscles, mainly the biceps, femoris, short head, which attaches to the back of the thigh to the top of the fibula, that can help to externally rotate the shin relative to the thigh. The single joint muscles, there's also the popliteus. So that's a small muscle that attaches from the outside of the top of the thigh, crosses the back of the knee to attach to the inside of the tibia. And perhaps more importantly, the sartorius, which isn't a single joint muscle, but as it crosses the inside of the thigh, to attach to the top of the tibia, it passes behind the bump of the knee and then attaches to the top of the tibia. And it may act against the biceps femoris short head to help stabilize the knee against rotation when the knee is straight. And in previous videos, I might have said that the shin does not rotate relative to the thigh when the knee is straight. However, I've since found for myself there's a slight amount of rotation. So controlling shin rotation at the knee joint can be important with the knee straight. And I think this is something that a lot of people practice, and I know for myself it's not something that I've practiced. And so the idea of these three exercises is to practice controlling. So part of the idea of these exercises is to practice controlling shin rotation relative to the thigh when the knee is straight. And you may find if you have collapsed arches, or if you find you have one foot that has a collapsed arch, this exercise or these exercises may be helpful to train the necessary muscles so that you can prevent a collapsed arch, particularly if you only have one collapsed arch, which may be due to some injury or whatever. Anyway, next pose is half moon pose. For half moon pose, again, you can use a prop. Yoga block would be more handy because you can actually hold on to the block while lowering down to the floor. Now to start off with, turn your foot out 90 degrees, shift your weight to that foot. And in this position, even before bending down, you can make the knee feel strong, adjust your hips, make your hip feel strong, make your foot feel strong. And then from there, try to keep all of those actions while lowering your hand to the table. If you wanted to, you could hold this position, lift the hand a slight amount, try to minimize any movement, or once you get your hand to the table, relax for a moment, and then again, activate the knee, adjust the hip, activate the foot, and then from there, keep the foot still, lift the hand a slight amount. Something you might choose to do, activate your transverse abdominis, spine long, even make the lifted leg active. And again, try to minimize any movement of the standing foot. If you wanted to, you could try and keep all actions while returning to standing. Now, something that I didn't mention, so from front to back, you might choose to position your weight so that the forefoot and the heel have even pressure, or reasonably even pressure. More importantly, adjust so that your foot feels stable and strong. Something else that I haven't mentioned is actual shin rotation relative to the foot. And that too can be an important consideration to, in particular, make the foot feel strong, but you may find it also affects your knee. So if you find that your foot tends to collapse inwards, it may be helpful for you to play with the amount of shin rotation relative to your foot. So if you're going all the way down in half moon pose, it may be even more challenging. Probably what you'll find is maybe adjusting the hip is the most important thing. But for a full half moon pose, again, make the knee feel strong, adjust the hips, make the hip feel strong, make the foot feel strong. And then from there, keep all of those, see if you can lower down with control. And even as you're lowering down, you may find that you need to adjust hip positioning so your hip feels strong. If you like, once you get your hand to the floor, relax there, and then again, when you're ready, engage the knee, adjust the hips, make the hip feel strong, make the foot feel strong, and then lift the hand a slight amount. You can keep the transverse abdominis engaged, spine long, even make the lifted foot feel strong. Then if you like, stand up from there. If you find you have problems keeping your foot stable, if your knee is strong, if your hip is strong, perhaps one of the final things you can think about or focus on is actual foot stability. As I mentioned, or as I hopefully mentioned, rotate the shin relative to the foot. Try that. Also work at creating a downward pull on your fibula. And even when you're creating a downward pull on your fibula, you may find that rotating the thigh slightly, so not just rotating the shin, but also controlling thigh rotation relative to the shin. So you can see there, hopefully my kneecap is moving relative to my shin. So you may find that even adjusting thigh rotation relative to the shin helps. So trying my bad side again. So knee strong, hip strong, so adjust the hip, hip strong, foot strong, and then adjusting knee rotation relative to the shin. So for me, actually rotating the thigh inwards relative to the shin seems to be helpful. It's not perfect, but it's a little bit better. And I mentioned earlier that the sartorius passes behind the bump of the knee to attach to the inside of the knee, inside of the tibia, and the biceps femoris attaches to the back of the femur to attach to the top of the fibula. And what it may happen is that because the way the sartorius passes behind the bump of the knee, it may actually work to rotate the shin inwards relative to the femur. And what that can do is actually creates, pulls the top of the fibula, pulls the outside of the lower leg bones forwards relative to the thigh bone. That may actually give the short head of the biceps femoris a little bit more length so that it can activate effectively. Now the knee is straight, so it should be lengthened anyway. So another way to think about it is that the sartorius is working against the biceps femoris, and it's a little bit, by rotating the shin inwards, that's actually the sartorius activating. Then the biceps femoris short head activates against the sartorius, and those are helping to stabilize the shin against rotation. At least that's the theory anyway. So perhaps the biggest point of all of these exercises is don't be afraid also to adjust the thigh relative to the shin as well. And that may be particularly relevant if you find that when balancing on one foot with the knee straight, your arch collapses inwards. Anyway, thank you very much for watching. Namaste.